Hello, honorable members of the clan. So let's go to the Knockouting High Court. As you guys already know that when the court resumed this morning, it was about Muzi Sibiya and his legal representative. We know that Mr. Ngomezulu unfortunately has departed from this earth, leaving, of course, his client without legal representation. And right down when the court started, they had a moment of silence, and I'm thinking, the compassion, whatever. I'm sorry, guys. I'm not being disrespectful, but I am very doubtful that all these gestures that were exercised this morning in court were genuine at all. I mean, did you hear the bounce in the voice of Geninda? Yeah, Buffet too. Let's continue with what transpired. Of course, there was a moment of silence in court, and then the judge, with compassionate voice, wanted to know from Mr. What's his name? Mr. Muzi Sibiya, if he is aware that his legal representative is no more. And he said, yes, he is aware. He was told yesterday, or the news was dropped to him yesterday. And now, what do you do? I thought, okay, what very interesting question. And so we learned that Muzi Sibiya's uncle was also starting to complain. And I mean, I understand, understandably, that Muzi Sibiya's uncle will start complaining because this trial is just going on and on. And it's going to dry him out. You know how expensive high court cases are? Expensive. So I understood and I was worried before, even when Mr. Mgomezulu was still alive. I was worried that is he getting what he's supposed to be getting from Muzi Sibiya's uncle? Or, I was having my own feelings about that. But, anyways, I'm glad that things were still being paid and going forward. Now, of course, they needed to, according to the Constitution, of course, Section 35 of the Constitution, an accused person has a right to legal representation, and he can choose to represent himself or go with the legal aid board route. I was like, no, let's go back to the original arrangements because this trial is de novo. And the last thing that Muzi needs is a whole new lawyer who is going to delay this trial for a good 6 to 9 months before it resumes. Because they still have to go and familiarize themselves with everything from magistrate, not even from magistrate level, all the way from the day he was arrested, magisterial level, high court transference, the first trial, then de novo trial, and to a point where Mr. Mgomezulu left off. So that was going to take forever. And I was like, no. And I'm glad the decision that Muzi, because he was thinking, what he asked his lawyers, the same thing that I was thinking. Like, listen, you guys are already here and you've been speaking on my behalf anyways. Why don't I choose any of you? Either Mshololo, Ngumalom, Nisi, or Ramusipili. And yeah, that's a question he asked. But Mr. Mnisi reported back to the court that they are not sure exactly how the legal aid board is. What are they thinking? Even though they've offered to sponsor Muzi Sibiya with his legal representation. But now he wants to know, can I choose my own lawyers? And I was like, yeah, they're already there. I mean, all of them. They've been speaking on your behalf anyways. So that is basically what was being discussed. And then they adjourned because judge wanted the legal aid board to come to court and basically draw a picture as to how they are going to go about this. And Mr. Mjuto was on the line with Mr. Mnisi, and they did not finish the conversation. And then the order was that bring Mr. Mjuto to court so that he can basically give us some, I don't know, ideas as to how we move forward with legal representation for Muzi Sibiya. So I did write some few notes here to remind myself. Legal aid board on no, they didn't come on they didn't take the stand, but it was regarding Mr. Sibiya's legal representation. Then there was a consultation between Mr. Sibiya as well as Mjudo, and Muzi Sibiya did choose to utilize the services of legal aid board, provided that he can choose his own lawyers. And then he asked that if he could be represented by one of these lawyers, but he's still to make a decision after speaking to his family. And we learned that he can't speak to his family right now because his contact book is still at a modern word that prison, and he will be able to contact his uncle, talk basically release him from paying for his legal fees, because now legal aid board is going to take the responsibility going forward. So he did ask to be represented by, yeah, so that time is preserved, like I said earlier, so that we don't have another 9 months of this trial adjourned, so that the new lawyer familiarize themselves with the docket and everything else. Something else, however, we need time to go. Oh yeah, then the defense asked that they need time to consider some few things, and this discussion is going to take place during the course of the holidays, but they would like to return on the 8th, since the new term begins on the 20th of January, but they would like to come back on the 8th so that they can put on record what they've decided in case Muzi Sibiya does make his choice. That was a bit of a tug of war between the defense and the judge, because the judge wanted to know why the 8th, because he's not going to be around the 8th, which is understandable because that is still court recess all the way to the 20th. And he says, I'll be in England watching soccer or something like that. And then Baloy says Mjuto is suggested that they adjourn until this Friday. Judge says, yeah, I think that's actually appropriate for us to adjourn until Friday. But Mr. Ngumalo shook his head and was like, Friday is way too soon. We still suggest the 8th, because that will give us ample time to have a discussion how we are going to go about representing accused number 1. Judge said, well, I will not be here. You'll be alone. And then he suggested again, or maybe he made a ruling. He says, no, we come back on Friday. You all have represented, all of you have represented accused number 1, the judge says to Mr. Nisi. So he doesn't see what is it that they need to do that it needs them to discuss until the 8th of January. Muzi, of course, he was asked how does he feel about this. He says, well, I haven't spoken to my family yet, so I don't have an opinion. Then Ramusipili stood up and talked about nomination, and then he says he doesn't mind representing accused number 1, which kind of like shows me that there was never a problem between accused number 1 and Ramusipili. It's just that Muzi decided to go with Mr. Ngomezulu without any scuffle or whatever that might have happened, and people made all kinds of speculations. I decided not to speculate what happened between Ramusipili and Muzi Sibiya. The suggestion of the 8th of January is proper, says Mr. Ramusipili. Judge was like, well, no, I'm not going to be here. You'll be here alone. I'm not going to be here on the 8th of January. Then Mr. Mnisi stood up again and made a recommendation of another judge to sit for this aspect of what they are requesting. Judge Rata was like, it will be irregular to call another judge. No any other judge will sit on this matter but him. Jiggy at some point was like, okay, fine, I'm gonna cancel my plans on the 8th. I'm gonna come to court, but all the accused must come to court. Gininda, you must be in court too on the 8th of January 2025. And yeah. Then Baloy then read some nonsense stuff that he needed to put on record on some exhibits. And then, of course, the court adjourned until the 8th of January 2025 so that the defense is going to draw a picture to the court how they are going to move forward with Muzi Sibiya, who currently does not have legal representation. And he needs to go and speak to his family and make decisions with the family, etc., and so on. But hey, if I was Muzi Sibiya's uncle, I would lodge a lawsuit against the Legal Aid Board that they forced him to pay or cough up from his own coffers or pay from his own bank account legal representation of a trial that was never the Sibiya's fault, that it started afresh. And Legal Aid Board, irrespective of which lawyer that was representing their loved one, they still supposed to have represented him. He needs to recover all his monies from the Legal Aid Board. That's just me. I could be wrong, but I'm looking at the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa, Section 35, about legal representation. That's what I'm looking at. And what the Legal Aid Board did, I feel like it was unconstitutional. And it should be tested, probably in the Constitutional Court, that what the Legal Aid Board did, was it correct or it was unconstitutional? And I feel like it was unconstitutional. There was a strategy here, and the strategy was to break a leg of this trial so that it disturbs the trial itself to come to a conclusion that these 5 men were never at the Khumalo house on the 26th of October 2014 because they were never there. The phone record says it. DNA says it. Gold tooth says it. You name it, says it. Anyways, guys, that is that. That is that. I'm still very sad. I'm very sad. Very, very sad. Before we start all of that, let me just say, let's see each other a bit later. Let's see each other a bit later. Yeah. Please don't leave the video without liking, sharing, commenting, and subscribing. And we'll see each other. Definitely. Gosh. Goodbye. Goodbye, guys. Goodbye.